Welcome to a deep dive into, well, the power of belief. Specifically, we're looking at the core psychological frameworks that determine how we handle challenge, effort, and failure.
Right.
This isn't about, self-help fluff. This is really about the fundamental mental architecture that dictates your success trajectory, whether you're even aware of it or not.
We're unpacking a pretty extensive body of work here, all surrounding the theory of mindsets.
That's mindset.
Exactly. Our mission today is to kind of synthesize the essence of these two powerful opposing beliefs, what are called the fixed mindset and the growth mindset, and really show how understanding them gives you a shortcut to recognizing your own behavioral traps.
Okay, let's unpack this with a fascinating observation from some of the early research. We're talking about children struggling with difficult puzzles. Now, most kids, they show frustration, but some displayed a reaction that was just utterly counterintuitive.
It's credible.
Imagine one child faced with increasing difficulty, rubbing his hands together, his eyes lighting up as he cries out, "I love a challenge."
Or the other one, sweating through the task, who looks up with this genuine look of pleasure and says, I was hoping this would be informative.
So the question is why?
That's the critical insight. Why did some children, when faced with proof that they weren't immediately successful, embrace the difficulty while others just cope with failure by trying to avoid that difficulty altogether?
And that distinction, it points us straight to the definitions. Let's start with the fixed mindset. You could call it the carved-in-stone belief.
The core of the fixed mindset is it's believing that your basic qualities,
Your intelligence, your talent.
exactly, your personality, that they're all just static, unchangeable traits. You've got what you've got, and that's the end of the story.
And if those traits are fixed, well, then the goal becomes crystal clear. You have this constant need to prove them.
All the time.
Success becomes the validation of your worth. If you think you're smart, you have to continually demonstrate that smartness because any failure threatens your core identity.
Which is just a highly anxious state to live in, right? Because
No.
if you have to prove your worth constantly, every interaction, every test, every project, it becomes a potential measurement of your permanent value.
Now, in stark contrast, you have the growth mindset, the cultivated belief.
Yeah, and this mindset fundamentally asserts that your qualities can be developed. They can be enhanced through passion, through dedicated toil, through training.
And this isn't just modern pop psychology. I mean, this view has some deep historical roots.
Absolutely. Think about Alfred Binet, the inventor of the IQ test.
Yeah.
Binet was a massive champion of the growth mindset. He didn't design the IQ test to give children some unchangeable score that brands them forever.
Right, like a life sentence.
Not at all. He designed it specifically to identify children who were struggling so that new, targeted educational programs could be developed to foster change in their intelligence. He saw it as malleable.
What's so fascinating about that is the growth mindset dictates that a person's true potential is, well, it's unknowable. You just can't foresee what can be accomplished with years of concentrated effort.
And if we look at history, this becomes abundantly clear. Darwin and Tolstoy, they were often considered pretty ordinary as children.
Huh.
Ben Hogan, one of the greatest golfers ever, was apparently uncoordinated and graceless early on. And Cindy Sherman, a major 20th century photographer, she actually failed her first photography course in university.
So they didn't hit their peak until they decided their abilities were something to be cultivated, not something they were just born with.
That's it. So the critical realization that sparked all this research was understanding there were two opposing meanings to the word ability. One is fixed and needs proof, and the other is dynamic and developed through learning.
And that difference radically changes how people react to the two universal truths of achievement, effort and failure.
Right.
So let's delve into that. How does the fixed mindset treat effort? The source is called as the deficiency rule.
The deficiency rule is, it's brutal and it's simple. In the fixed world, effort is seen as being only for people with deficiencies.
Meaning, if you're a real genius, a natural talent.
You shouldn't need effort. So needing to exert effort, it casts this dark shadow on your intrinsic ability. It suggests you're not actually good enough.
And this leads to an ultimate, almost paralyzing fear. The fear isn't just of failure itself, it's the fear of trying your absolute best.
Putting in maximum effort.
And still failing. Because if that happens, you are left with zero excuses. Your core ability has been measured, And you've been exposed.
And this emotional devastation is why people self-sabotage. I mean, look at the story of the violin prodigy Nadja Salerno-Sonnenberg.
Oh, yeah?
Immense talent. But when she started struggling at Juilliard, she became so terrified of trying and still failing that she eventually just stopped bringing her violin to lessons entirely.
She said something like, nothing is harder than saying, I gave it my all and it wasn't good enough.
Exactly. The fixed mindset preferred doing nothing to facing that kind of painful, definitive measurement.
And the fixed mindset also creates this really damaging trap of labels. You know, a single evaluation, a single test score can define someone permanently.
There was a student, Loretta. Years after winning academic prizes, she still had this core belief that she was not a true eagle.
Because of a failed kindergarten placement test.
A kindergarten test. Fixed mindset individuals grant one arbitrary measurement the power to define their intelligence now and forever. They're just perpetually haunted by this fear that their success is a facade.
That makes sense, but what happens when the growth mindset slams headfirst into a real challenge? Does that fundamentally change how they view the act of trying?
Oh, absolutely. The growth mindset operates on what you could call the learning rule. Effort isn't a deficit, it's a path. People with this mindset, they thrive on stretching themselves. They get that struggle is just part of the process of getting better.
Like that wrestler, Miranda.
Yeah, perfect example. She wins an Olympic bronze medal. She's at the pinnacle of her sport. So what does she do?
She goes to Yale Law School.
She goes to Yale Law School for the excitement of starting at the bottom again, to see what she could grow into this time. For her, the reward was the effort itself.
What's really interesting is how this changes the nature of confidence. You don't always need to feel confident to start something.
No, sometimes you do it because you're not good at it yet. A competitive swimmer made the point that once he focused just on learning and improving, his so-called defects just became controllable variables. Mistakes weren't personal failings anymore. They were just useful information.
And this is where it gets really interesting and so important for any parent, leader, or educator listening. The hidden, almost toxic dangers of praise.
Oh, the research on this is stunning. Students were given puzzles. Afterwards, one group was praised for their ability. Wow, you must be really smart at this.
And the second group?
They were praised for their effort. Wow, you must have worked really hard.
The students who were praised for their ability, the ones labeled smart, they then avoided challenging tasks. They were afraid they might fail and lose that smart label.
And after a setback, their performance actually declined. Some of them even lied about their scores.
Just to protect their fixed identity.
Yes. Praising their ability put them right in the fixed mindset trap. You could argue that by injecting this high-stakes fixed label, the researchers effectively lowered the students' performance and their desire to learn.
The pressure of being a genius is crippling.
It is. Composer Adam Guettel talked about that burden, how it killed his enjoyment. He just wished he could just have fun and relax.
Whereas praising for effort or strategy.
Those kids sought out more challenging tasks, and they improved their performance. The lesson is just so clear. What you praise shapes the belief system you live in.
So let's see these mindsets in action. Let's start with sports, that constant battle between talent and toil.
Right. The fixed mindset idolizes the natural.
And the perfect example of that is Billy Beane, hailed as the next Babe Ruth, incredible raw talent. But he failed to reach his potential as a player.
And Michael Lewis, who wrote about him, observed that Beane just lacked the champion's mindset. For Beane, needing to work hard was like an admission that his natural talent wasn't enough.
So he avoided the very effort that would have led to mastery.
Contrast that with true champions, Michael Jordan, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Jack Nicklaus. They are renowned not just for skill, but for their character, their ability to recover.
They credit their success to intense, focused hard work, thriving under pressure, the ability to win even when things are not quite right.
Yes, and Jackie Joyner-Kersee's final medal-winning long jump. It just illustrates this so beautifully. She said she collected all my pains and turned them into one mighty performance.
That is the essence of the growth mindset, extracting fuel from setbacks instead of hiding from them.
And this pattern, it translates directly to business and leadership, the contrast between ego-driven leadership and growth-driven leadership.
Fixed mindset leaders like Lee Iacocca or maybe Enron, Slay, and Skilling.
They view the company not as a mission, but as a vehicle for their personal greatness, their own entitlement.
So they become brutal bosses, they ignore critics, and they operate in a world where protecting their personal legacy outweighs the long-term corporate health. They punish failure because failure reflects poorly on them.
But growth mindset leaders, like Jack Welch at GE or Lou Gerstner at IBM, they see the company as an engine of growth for everyone.
Their focus is on developing employees and rewarding teamwork, not just hunting for so-called natural talent.
Right. The famous story about David Packard, co-founder of HP, he gave an engineer a special medal for extraordinary contempt and defiance.
Because the engineer defied an order to abandon a monitor project that he believed in.
And it ended up being a huge success. Packard rewarded the growth behavior, not just the obedience.
Let's touch on relationships, because they seem to be governed perhaps most intensely by these belief systems.
Oh, for sure. The fixed mindset demands instant, perfect, and perpetual compatibility.
Which just sets people up for disaster. That mindset leads to the belief that if we have to work at it, it wasn't meant to be.
And it fosters this unrealistic reliance on mind reading instead of direct, vulnerable communication. They want the relationship to be this fixed display of perfection.
So when rejection or conflict inevitably hits,
The fixed mindset person feels permanently judged and labeled, often with this devastating verdict, I am unlovable. And they lash out with blame or vengeance or just disconnect immediately to protect that fragile identity.
the growth mindset is so different. When conflict arises, they focus on understanding the mechanisms of the failure.
They want to learn better communication skills. Forgiveness, there's a French expression that guides them. To understand all is to forgive all.
That approach allows people to transform disasters into learning opportunities,
Yeah.
like Nicole Contos, who was famously stood up at the altar.
An unbelievable story. Instead of collapsing into humiliation, she went through with the reception, changed into a black dress, and danced solo to I Will Survive.
She chose growth over permanent judgment.
She did. The power of choosing the growth mindset is clear, but the journey to changing decades of fixed thinking is rarely that easy.
We need practical steps, because a fixed mindset, it often operates like a suit of armor, right? Built up over years to feel safe and strong, but it ultimately just constricts any real growth.
Exactly. And the path isn't just about wishing you were different. It requires a systematic 4-step journey.
Okay, step one.
Acknowledge and name your fixed mindset persona. You have to externalize that self-critical, self-protective voice. Give it a name. Call it Z or Henrietta or whatever.
This separates the voice from your identity. It makes it something you can manage, not something you are.
Step 2, recognize your triggers. You have to meticulously identify the situations when your fixed mindset persona shows up. Is it when you're under pressure, after critical feedback, facing something you aren't immediately good at?
Awareness is the first step toward intervention.
Then step 3, and this is where you gain control. Educate your persona. Don't try to banish it. Engage it. If your persona whispers you're going to fail and look stupid, you don't argue about failure.
You talk to it about the plan.
Right. You respond with something like, yes, it's possible that I'm not so good at this yet, but I have an idea of what to do next. Let's just try it. You acknowledge the fear, but you pivot to action.
And finally, step 4.
Use if-then plans. Willpower alone is weak. Structured, specific planning prevents you from relapsing into those old, fixed mindset habits.
So instead of saying, I need to communicate better, which is vague,
You formulate an action. If I feel myself getting defensive during a discussion, then I will take 3 deep breaths and ask, can you tell me more about that?
or if I finish the dishes tonight, then I'll spend 20 minutes practicing that difficult skill I've been avoiding.
Specificity overrides resistance.
You know, we've seen that the growth mindset is not about always being number one. It's not about always winning. It's about maximizing personal development, dedicating effort, and, well, pursuing fulfillment.
What's so devastating about the fixed mindset is how it ensures people are perpetually running in place. They spend their lives polishing their unused endowments like trophies, just terrified to expose them to the possibility of a scratch or a failure.
So what does this all mean for you? It means you have a fundamental choice
Right.
in every aspect of your life. You can look back years from now and say, I could have been.
Polishing those trophies.
Right, justifying the status quo, preserving your fixed, fragile image. Or you can look back and say, I risked my image, I fell down, and I gave my all for the things I valued.
Think about the contrast between feeling judged and feeling nurtured. If we choose to live in a world where every action is a test, then our identity is perpetually at risk.
But if we choose a world where every action is a learning experience,
We're fundamentally nurtured by the process itself.
So here's a thought to leave you with. Where in your life, right now, are you setting up a constant test? A test of competence or worth or ability that you feel constantly pressured to pass? And how can you dismantle that belief and choose nurturing growth instead? That is the mindset shift that changes everything.